California factories are closing at alarming speeds as jobs flee the state. Not only do we have California factories closing down, we've got refineries closing down, we've got entire industries questioning whether they want to continue doing business in California. Let's get into it. Here we go. I'm a big fan of Blue Diamond almonds. They're closing down a plant, Sacramento. Let's watch a little video.
Cultural landscape is making a significant move that could leave many local workers facing uncertain futures. Blue Diamond Growers, a company that has called Sacramento home for more than a century, is shutting down its Sacramento plant. Wow. Around 600 employees are affected.
ABC 10's 𝗪𝗠𝗠𝗠 explains why the company is making this decision and why some economists say this is a wake-up call.
It is
a little late.
That came as a shock to some. A plant considered a Sacramento icon ending a 115-year chapter later this year and impacting nearly 600 employees in the process.
One is about gaining efficiencies, and this is one way that we're able to do that.
Blue Diamond
closing down and not operating in Sacramento anymore. That's how we become more efficient. That's the backhanded way of explaining closing down Blue Diamond Growers in Sacramento.
Diamond says it is expensive and inefficient to keep its main plant that is so close to neighborhoods and downtown.
The cooperative will gain efficiencies by consolidating our processing operations into the 𝗨𝗧𝗘𝗏 and 𝗪𝗏 plants in the Central Valley.
Blue Diamond says severance packages, relocation opportunities, and incentives to stay during the transition. The company says its move is a necessity to remain competitive on the global scale, but the closure is still a big blow to the community.
Proof is in the pudding. Blue Diamond walking away is just another sign that there's something wrong with how we are doing business here.
Dr. Sanjay Varshney, a finance professor at Sacramento State and the founder of Golden Stone Wealth Management, says the loss of Blue Diamond is a sign of deeper issues in Sacramento's business climate.
This is a lesson, in my opinion, for the civic leaders, the political leaders, and whoever else is at the table who basically keeps thinking that Sacramento basically is the Mecca, where businesses and people should be lining up to want to do business here. And that's not true anymore.
With higher cost of living and a challenging regulatory environment, Varshney adds that leaders...
There's that challenging regulatory environment. I mean, we know about expenses. We know about taxation in California. But the challenging regulatory environment, that's always the one. There's too much nonsense. Too much nonsense to run a business that after, years and years and years, Blue Diamond says, nope, we're out. We're going to consolidate over here because you guys have too many shenanigans in your regulatory industry. We're done. Shenanigans be damned. We're out of here. We're gone.
To use tariffs as an excuse for businesses leaving are not based in reality.
It's not tariffs. Blue Diamond is an example of a company that we thought was domestic, was basically in our own backyard, something that we took pride in. When they leave, I think it's a wake-up call for us that, hey, by the way, there's something wrong with us, the way we do business.
Blue Diamond says its headquarters and gift shop will remain in Sacramento. Reporting in Sacramento, 𝗪𝗠𝗠𝗠𝗠, ABC 10.
Paul, thank you. Sacramento Mayor Kevin McCarthy.
Thank you for 115 years of partnership. Don't let the door hit you in the ass. Thanks for doing business with you. We know you've been an iconic symbol of Sacramento history, but now you're kind of an example of the current state that California is in, which is closed. We wish you well as you relocate to the Central Valley. So I've had a number of articles lately come across just citing the sheer number of companies and factories, specifically factories, and a lot of the factories having to do with food products. I know a lot of you have theories on the whole food product thing, and the reason it's happening in California is because California is one of the biggest producers of agricultural-related type items, right? They're massive, massive. The percentage of food that comes out of California is huge. Not just for the U.S., but all over, right? There's been a trend happening in California the past few years, but nobody's really talking about it. All across California, Longtime food factories are shutting down at an alarming speed. Companies are packing up and leaving, and most aren't looking back. So what's going on? 600 almond jobs gone in Sacramento. Blue Diamond Growers, we just touched on that one. They've been there since 1914. Over a century of jobs gone in 2 years. Roughly 600 workers will be laid off as operations shift to 𝗪𝗏 Valley. Frito-Lay pulls the plug after 55 years. Frito-Lay, boom, out. Still hanging out at headquarters down in Dallas, but California, we're going to reimagine and rethink Rancho Cucamonga. PepsiCo shut down its Frito-Lay snack plant in June 2025. Hundreds of jobs gone, 10 weeks of severance. Manzana moves applesauce out of Sonoma. Foster Farms shutters turkey plant. Last sugar beet plant in California is closing. That one had some significance, I believe. And I've read a bunch of stuff, but I just haven't followed the California sugar beet plant well enough. I know there was some, I don't know if it was conspiracy theories or just, hey, they're going after food industry, those kind of things. But I know that the last sugar beet refinery, that was kind of a big one. U.S. Food cuts over 100 warehouse jobs. Nestle already left town. They made frozen vegetarian meals and prepackaged bowls a growing segment, and yet still not profitable enough for California because you've got so many layers of just anti-business within the inherent business structure of California. Washington State, no different in a lot of aspects. What is going on in Seattle as far as anti-business? Hey, if we can't get our budget together, we'll just tax big business. We need to get those bastard rich business owners to pay their fair share when they already are. And then when big business says, sayonara, the business leaders are like, what do we do now? This is racist. You can't leave. And they beg them. They beg them, like we're going to talk about in a second, with the refineries leaving California. What a boondoggle that is. Just absolutely. Did you not see this coming from 100 miles away? Gavin Newsom, podcaster Newsom. Did you guys not see this coming? I mean, no, they didn't, because progressivism and being liberal is a disease. And you keep doing the same thing over and over and over, and then you wonder, we've made it so unaffordable. We put in so many regulations. Businesses can't stay, and they're leaving left, right, and center. But hey, let's just keep layering on the nonsense, and we'll just wonder why it doesn't work out. That is literally the definition of crazy, right? Doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result. Nutso. Crazy. Looney Tune. Looney bin. Follow the coconut mama. Why it's happening. Not going to sugarcoat it. Companies are leaving because it's cheaper elsewhere. Bottom line, right? Bottom line. California has some of the highest electricity rates, strictest environmental rules, and most expensive labor costs in the country. But hey, let's go ahead and pop up that minimum wage to $50 an hour, and we'll just see how it goes. California specifically, we'll just see how it goes. You know how many businesses would go out of business overnight? Oh, that would be the ultimate social experiment. And you know what? You get some real knuckleheads in Congress who say, let's try it. Hey, I'm all for it. I mean, the podcasts I would get out of that would just be phenomenal. Absolutely primo stuff. I mean, I'd be able to talk about those shenanigans for days, right? Days, weeks, months. So when a company looks at its balance sheet, it's not a hard decision. Consolidate, automate, relocate. Consolidate. Smaller. Move your plant to there where you already got some plants going, because here in Sacramento, too expensive. Automate. Hey, we don't need that numbnut in McDonald's running the ice cream machine into the ground. It's always broken. Let's automate the thing fully. You're going to see that happen in the fast food industry, especially with these blue libtard cities jacking up their minimum wage. They're going to say, well, we can figure out how to automate this. You're fired. So now your job has gone from $25 an hour to 0. How'd that work out for you? Oh, not that well. Relocate, meaning picking up entirely and moving somewhere else. Kind of like In-N-Out Burger did in California. So where'd they go? Tennessee? Their corporate went to Tennessee. They're not shutting the businesses down, the restaurants down, except for Oakland. And it was profitable. But they had, bullet holes in the structure of the restaurant. And they decided maybe bullet holes are prime example of why we need to close this one down and move on. Nobody needs to have a mass shooting at In-N-Out Burger in Oakland. No, they don't. Where are they going? Here's the thing. Even states like Texas aren't safe anymore. Tyson recently shut down multiple plants in the South. Why? Because the real trend isn't just about location. It's about fewer plants, more automation, and fewer people needed to do the same work. It's just like retail. But when you've got a situation, retail has been difficult for a Nordstrom, for Bloomingdale's, for any of those big stores. But when it comes push comes to shove, you're going to eliminate those stores that are in malls that are the most expensive to run, that are the hardest to run because of regulation. So when you've got the opportunity to close things down, it's pretty simple. You take those whacks to the stores that are in locations that are just known quantity. Hey, taxation, minimum wage, regulations in California. We got 3 stores here. Let's close them down. So it's not just California, but it's an overall industry. And then when you're forced to make decisions at the corporate level, those decisions are pretty easy when you're comparing, say, a Nebraska, when you're comparing a Oklahoma City, when you're comparing areas like that have super low taxation, super low cost of doing business, and they are pro-business compared to a California or a Seattle. It's just not that hard to figure out. And yet what's super interesting is in leadership in the states that are losing these jobs and these businesses, they're kind of like, that's weird. Hey, we appreciate you doing business in our city for the last 115 years. We wish you well. Not really sure why they're leaving. I don't really know. I mean, maybe just too much sunshine for them. Right? Because they can't take ownership of its policy that's driving them away. It's policy, taxation, policy, however you get there. It's anti-business. And business can move. Wealthy people can move. People who own businesses can move their businesses. Straightforward. And yet, when you hear leadership in these cities, in these liberal utopian cities, they're always like deflection of, big corporate, it's profit taking. They're all about the profit. And you're like, no, not really. That's not really how this goes, but whatever. Major California food processing factory closing, leaving state after 78 years. Which one was that? Though that's the Minnesota Beet Sugar Cooperative, 78-year-old facility. Some of that, it has to do with you've got an old factory and you don't want to remodel it, you don't want to renovate it, and there's no money in it for you. You're already at a break even at best. Moving forward, like the refinery industry, moving forward in California is just a massive no-go. It's a huge no-go. Why are all the oil refineries leaving California? And is it time to do something about it? If you have to ask in April of 2025 if there's something that needs to be done about it, you are more than a day late, $1 short. Hey, goodbye. You know what I mean? It's like, are you brain dead here? Are you late to the story? Because California has been doing this for decades, this whole ridiculous, clean energy, climate crisis nonsense. And by that, I don't mean that, an electric lawnmower is evil and a gas-powered lawnmower is, the way we should be doing things forever. But this notion that layering on all kinds of expenses to the middle class and working class, because they're the ones that they're going to have to pay the price of, no more gas cars in California after 2030 or 2035, whatever the stupid policy is. They're the ones that are going to bear the brunt of all of this ridiculousness. And they are leaving California, not moving to California, and not having enough babies for population growth to still continue to happen in California. They are voting with their feet. They're going elsewhere because it's too expensive. They can't make it go. Doesn't make sense. Oil refineries, same deal. You've had years and decades of, we're all about the clean energy. We want to get rid of big oil. And it's such a misguided ideology because oil is in everything. And trying to tell us that you're going to get rid of that at any time soon is just, it's mentally challenged alongside with, it's simply not going to happen. And it's not going to happen. And the actual positive impact on the climate from what California is doing and layering on to its middle class and working class folks and its upper class as well. They got to pay for gas as well. But when gas jumps from $4.50 to $4.89 a gallon, wealthy are like, they don't even notice it. They just swipe their card and go, it's what gas costs. But ultimately, this doesn't have that much of an impact on the environment. It just doesn't. Percentage-wise, a movement of change to the environment is almost nil. It's almost nil, but you're going to go ahead and you're going to burden business. You're going to burden employees. You're going to burden taxpayers. You're going to burden everybody along the way because of this ideology. You got to wonder, is it worth it? Is it worth it? So is it time to do something about it? Day late, dollar short, right? Just absolutely. Unemployment in California projected to get worse as prices rise. People can no longer afford California. People can no longer afford West Coast, Best Coast. California, Oregon, and Washington. You've got areas in there that are cheaper than others, but your big metropolitan areas have just become too expensive. Most people can't afford a home. Wages haven't risen to the cost of housing, let alone how much it costs to pull up your vehicle or, turn the gas on in the winter. That's if, we're going to have gas because California is trying to outlaw, anything petrol related, right? It's just this absolute nuts. Major Bay Area refinery on track to close, city officials say. This was released about a day ago. We're going to go through this one because we've been following the Benicia City, the Valero refinery closing down, and it's one of the ones that's in play from the standpoint of, if we close this one down and Phillips 66 closes their one down, then that's about 17.5% of the supply of oil coming into California. It's or just supply as a refinery in general. Gas prices to the moon. Let's check this one out real quick. The odds were low, but even so, some Benicia City leaders hoped that California would emerge from the past week's final lawmaking push for the year with a plan to keep the Valero Energy Corp from shuttering its Bay Area oil refinery next year. April of 2026, I believe, is when it's scheduled for. The Phillips 66, I think, is scheduled to close in October. We're coming right down on that. Lawmakers announced big deals on electricity affordability, oil drilling, and climate measures for Governor Gavin Newsom to either reject or sign, but none dealt directly with the dramatic problem for Benicia that its biggest taxpayer and employer, talking about a big refinery going out of business, would soon be abandoning its 900-acre gasoline-making facility on the outskirts of town. The silence is deafening. California has some of the highest gas prices in the country. No, Washington State does. We're number one. We just overtook you because we got some issues with the Olympic pipeline. So then let's skip down to all options are on the table for California operations. That's what Valero said. Valero hired a contractor to work on a redevelopment plan for the site. Shutting those down does 20% of its refining capacity for California. By July, state legislatures were considering whether California could pay Valero between $80 million and $200 million. We covered that one in a separate podcast to cover Benicia's maintenance costs and stave off its closures. But those deliberations appear to have gone nowhere, Giuliani said, probably because Valero realized even with $80 to $200 million, the outlook long-term in California for what they do is not great. So you take 20, you take 80, you take 200 million, it's like you're still stuck with the same problem. Yeah, it helps a little bit, but long-term, they're going to need way more than that to do what they need to do. Seems there is no path that remains for Valero to remain. That's pretty wild. Will this get shut down? I thought they'd pull out some rabbit out of a hat, but it does not look like that is going to happen. Barrett said that it's likely not enough to keep Valero open. The new legislation, which allows a little bit more drilling for crude oil, which would allow those pipelines to get a little bit more business, allow the refineries to get a little bit more business. They're talking essentially about if you've got two oil wells, if you're drilling, if you got two that are closed down or they're idled or they're basically just, hey, no more's going on, nothing's coming out of it, abandoned, orphaned, I think is the term in the oil industry. If you got two of those, then you can replace it with one new one. So they're trying to get some more drill going, but it sounds like it's a day late, dollar short. Benicia is now preparing to lose more than $10 million in revenue streams out of its $60 million general fund budget by this one employer going. So they are setting up for this closure. Valero pays about $7.7 million in sales and property taxes to the city. Refinery is also the city's largest water customer, spending about $3 million annually. And that's going to go away. That's going to go away like that, April of 2026. And then an entire, city is like, oh, what are we going to backfill that with? How are you going to bring industry into a state that has consistently pushed business away? Highest gas prices. Well, second now, of course. Highest income tax, highest taxes, highest gas tax. Highest food costs. The list just, home prices, incredibly expensive in the big urban areas. The list just goes on and on and on. And so much of it is self-imposed policy and taxation. If you're at that point, and this is where the legislators, and this is where Gavin Newsom, podcaster Newsom, kind of sits, why are the refineries closing? And is it time to do something about it? If you're asking that question, you have already lost the battle because you don't understand that, yes, it is time to do something about it, but inherently you can't because most of the policy that's in place that is pushing business out it's systemic to the way California does business. You can't undo that. It's like the cost of producing a unit of housing in most big progressive liberal cities. It's baked in with a whole extremely high land costs and then high costs of production, high labor costs. All of the stuff that you need to build a home is really expensive. And if you're asking, hey, is it time that we do something about it? It's too late. Too late. Writing's on the wall. Goodbye. Factory closed. Refinery closed, jobs lost, tax revenue lost, income to cities, taxation in general. Boop, done. And that's the same thing that Seattle's facing. They're pushing businesses out with policy. And yet they don't understand it. Maybe they don't care. Maybe Newsom doesn't care. He pretends to care. I don't know. He's going to try and run for president with this kind of nonsense going on. I don't see that as a reality. But then again, I don't vote blue. So my reality clearly, and probably yours, if you're farthest into the podcast, you probably don't vote blue either. And if you do, that's on you. All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.